Good morning students, how are you all? I hope you all are fine and safe at home. Myself Shweta Matkal, a representative of Shiv Jyoti Educational Group Kota. So students, take out your history book. We will start with chapter 8, that is Women, Caste and Reform. We are going to cover these topics in this video, that is video number 1, and the remaining topics will be covered in the next video, that will be video 2. Introduction, working towards change, changing the lives of widows, girls begin going to school, women write about women. Now let us start with the introduction. Students, if we talk about 200 years ago, the condition of the women were very pathetic and deplorable. Why it's so? I am going to tell you. Because they were not allowed to go to school, and they were married off at an early age. Both Hindu and the Muslims men could marry more than one wife, and in some parts of the country, women widow were praised if they chose that by burning themselves to the funeral pyre of their husbands. Means that was known as Sati Pratha. Sati means virtuous woman. So we can say that the condition was pathetic and deplorable. That comes under the women. I am giving you the introduction of the chapter. Now the second, that is caste. People were divided along lines of caste. Brahmins, you must have read about it before also. Brahmins and Kshatriyas considered themselves as a upper caste. Okay. Now the moneylenders and weavers, often referred to as Vaishyas and placed after them. And thirdly, peasants, artisans, that were known as Shudras. And at the lowest rung were those who were labored to keep the small towns and cities clean, and the upper class considered them as untouchables. Now the reform. Reformer are the person who wanted to bring the society free from the evil practices that is going on there. Now read about reformers and their role. Students, we will read about some reformers in this chapter like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayanand Saraswati, Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar and so on. Reformers and their roles. Indian reformers felt the need for societal changes. They wanted to bring changes in the society and the evil practices that was going on there like Sati Pratha. They felt that unjust practices should be ended, and they believed that public freedom is important. According to them, the freedom for the society is very much important. Now let's discuss the point number 2, that is working towards change on the board. So we have covered the introduction part. Now the working towards the change. Things had greatly changed now. The conditions of the women had improved a lot. Now they can go to school and universities and college for further studies. They can choose their life partners, and moreover they have to be adult before they are getting legally married. So we can say that they are enjoying their rights in each and every section of society. In early 19th century, debate and discussions began to root out the evil practices that was going in the society at that time. Such of the reformer, first of all we will talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He spread Western education. He spread Western education, advocated for women, and disapproved Sati Pratha. Okay, Raja Ram Mohan Roy spread Western education, advocate for women and disapprove Sati Pratha. So we can say that these reformers tried to bring out changes in the society as much as they could. Now the time for internal question, that is page number 95. The first question is, who was the founder of Brahmo Samaj? I am repeating the question, who was the founder of Brahmo Samaj? And the answer is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, because they felt that changes were necessary in the society. Now the third point, changing the lives of widows. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was very much moved by the problems that were faced by the widows at that time. So through his writings, he spread, or he wanted to convey the message through his text that there was no sanction of the widow remarriage in the ancient texts. So he wanted to clear it among the society, and many other reformers adopted his view. At that time he worked on sati. He spread the message that there was no sanction in the ancient texts of the practice of sati or the burning of widows. So finally in 1829 Sati Pratha was banned. Another reformer, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, promoted widow remarriage. He also used ancient texts to suggest that widow could remarry. His suggestions was accepted or adopted by the British officials, and in 1856 they passed a law permitting widow remarriage. So we say that these reformers worked a lot, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, to practice, to get rid from these evil practices like sati pratha, and started widow remarriage. But at that time the number of the women who actually remarried remained low, because they were opposed by the conservative orthodox. They didn't accept this law at all, and the women who were married were not easily accepted in the society. Here the question number 2, internal question number 2, that is on page number 97. Who was the founder of Arya Samaj? Swami Dayanand Saraswati was the founder of Arya Samaj. Swami, he was also a reformer. Okay. Swami Dayanand Saraswati was the founder of Arya Samaj. Mark the answer. Now we are going to discuss this topic. Student, here one of another reformer was Veersalingam Pantlu. Veersalingam Pantlu formed an association for widow remarriage in Madras Presidency region. It is the picture of Veersalingam Pantlu. Young intellectuals and reformers in Bombay worked for the same cause. So we can say that these reformers worked a lot to set the society free from the evil practices. So the topic, girls begin to going school. Student, these reformers felt that in order to improve the condition of women, it is necessary to send them to school. So many schools were opened by Vidyasagar and some other reformers. They wanted them to educate, but many orthodox people objected it. Why so? They feared that going to school would take girls away from home and prevent them from their domestic duties. Okay. Secondly, they sharply reacted against sending girls to school. They sharply reacted. So hence, throughout the 19th century, girls were taught at home by their liberal husbands and fathers. They were not sent to school throughout the 19th century. You have read about the Rasundri Devi in class 7, how she taught at home. Now the last topic is women rights about women. By the 19th or the early 20th century, situation was changed. Now girls could go to school. How the women write about women? Muslim women like Begum of Bhopal promoted education for women for girls and founded a primary school at Aligarh. Okay. Begum Ruqayya Shekhawat Hussain started school for Muslim girls in Patna and Calcutta. And in the 1880s, women began to enter universities. So we can say that situations is changing. Now let's discuss the few points. Education for Muslim girls. The first Urdu novels were written in late 19th century. They were intended to encourage women to read about religion. Now we are talking about education for Muslim girls. Domestic management could be learned in a language that could be understood. Girls' School at Surat in Gujarat, 1873. By the end of 19th century, women actively worked for reforms. Now they started raising voice for their own. They wrote books, edited magazines, set up schools, training centers and women's associations. Pandita Ramabai. She was a great scholar of Sanskrit, wrote about the miserable lives of the upper class Hindu women, felt Hindus oppressive towards women, wrote book on miserable lives of upper caste Hindu women. Now students, another reformer, Tara Bai Shinde, who taught at Pune at home, published book named Stri Purush Tulna. As it is clear by the name, Stri Purush Tulna means comparison between men and women. She also criticized the social differences between men and women. Here the question number 3, internal question number 3 for you. Who published Stri Purush Tulna? Page number 99. Answer is Tarabai Shinde published Stri Purush Tulna. Okay. Now, but it was opposed by Orthodox Hindus and Muslim nationalists. Orthodox Hindus and Muslim nationalists. They were in fear by seeing these kind of changes in the society. They were not in favor of this at all. But some nationalists like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose supported them and demands for the greater equality and freedom for women. Also promise of a complete suffrage means right to vote for all men and women after independence. So these all points are covered here. Read it carefully. This chapter is very easy and interesting as well. I hope you understood the chapter. Read it thoroughly. We will meet in the video number 2. We'll cover the remaining points of these chapters. Thank you.